Imposter syndrome. I know I'm good at what I do, but I still suffer from imposter syndrome. How can I overcome this? And then I've got some specific kind of versions of this question. Like, I know I'm good because I care and my patients get results, but that imposter syndrome still lurks. I have a lack of belief that I can make it big. I know I'm a badass at what I do, but apparently I'm afraid of success. People have talked about having their own practice and kind of dying financially, but when they work for somebody else, they're humming along, seeing 20, 30 patients a day. No problem, right? I've seen different variations of this question. So real quick, here's imposter syndrome, okay? Imposter syndrome, the way I see it, is that it's anxiety disguised as humility, okay? I want to think about that a little bit because oftentimes we'll have personal challenges in our development that disguise themselves as virtues, and it makes it harder to get rid of that stuff because we think, well, I need to have this imposter syndrome because it keeps me humble, and if I don't have imposter syndrome, then I'm going to go out there and be a tyrant. You're not, right? Most likely you're not. One of the things to do, there's this balance with kindness and power, right? If you think, here's a challenge, if you think you're a kind person and you want to find out if that's actually true, become powerful and you'll find out who you are, right? The more power you have, the more kindness is optional. People are kind when they're powerless because they're begging, essentially. This was something that a friend pointed out a long, long time ago. And once I saw that distinction, a lot of things clicked for me, and maybe it'll click for you as well. We can be kind and we can be powerful. It's not one or the other, right? But don't make yourself powerless so that you can tell yourself you're kind, because that's not necessarily true kindness, not necessarily true humility when we look at imposter syndrome that way, right? Don't disempower yourself to try to tell yourself, I'm humble, right? You can be humble. Being humble means getting great results and understanding that there are larger forces at work, right? Being humble isn't like, I did this, I did that. It's going, wow, look at what's happening here. I'm thrilled to be a part of it, right? That's an empowered humility where you can still take ownership of your part of the process, right? Because it is, you got to be doing the work here with this stuff, and you should have some credit. You should be able to stand up straight and expand and not shrink all the time. If you're showing up, nobody wants you to show up small. The people want help from you. They want you to show up big, not so big that you crowd them out, that you eclipse them, that you don't listen to them, right? But big enough that you can hold this space for them and they know you're a pro and they can relax. So sometimes this false humility thing can really get in the way. I've looked at the Dunning-Kruger curve before, where essentially, you start out with something and it's basically like confidence and competence, right? So you have a very low level of competence, but a very high amount of confidence, because it's like, oh, this seems simple, it's going to be easy. And then as we get going with things, we get more experience and we start to realize, like, holy shit, this is more complicated than I thought. But eventually we do come out the other side where we now have that true level of confidence based on our competence, right? That's the Dunning-Kruger curve. And there's a lot of kind of like funny stories about this, where essentially the thing about the Dunning-Kruger is that most people aren't as good at things as they think they are. And the kind of funny bit about that is that you're on it and you don't know it. That's kind of the deal. And we have to remember that, and that is humility, to understand the curve. But when we have imposter syndrome, we put ourselves below where we even are in the Dunning-Kruger. So the cure for that is a bit of boldness, essentially. I'll try to I made some graphics a while ago on this. I'll see if I can find them and put them up in here. But essentially, you need to be willing to be a little bit bold and give yourself some credit for the results that you are getting. Now, that said, we don't want to be like a balloon, just like big but empty inside. We need to be full. So some of this question of like, when I work for myself, I'm financially struggling. When I work for other people, it's like humming along. This has to do with segmenting out our skill sets and looking at the anatomy of our practice. Attraction, conversion, right? Patient education, you could call it that, right? Attraction, you could think of as marketing, like drawing people in, right? Conversion is like educating. Could be on a website, could be face-to-face in a consultation. It's like, hey, I see you, I hear you. Your problem is something that we work with here. Here's how we're different, essentially. So the potential patient can start to see what you can see in terms of their future, right? Because they're blocked. That's why they're coming to see you, So that's a skill. It's a leadership skill. You can't be small. Well, let me put it this way. It's hard to be small and do attraction. Like, hey, I don't know if I'm that great, but like, come on in. That's hard, right? Of course it's not going to work. And then when they do get in the office, it's like, oh, I don't know. People want leadership, but it can't be fake. So there's the balance, right? And then we have selling. So that's the ability to understand the value of what it is you provide and then put a number to that and be able to present it with a straight face and eye contact and know that you're not stringing people along, that you can deliver what it is you're promising, right? So all those things happen before the actual service or product that we offer, right? So what I hear when I see questions like this of like, oh, when I'm working as an employee, things are humming along. Well, that's because when you work as an employee, a lot of times all you have to do is deliver the product or the service. Show up and put the needles, take the pulse, look at the tongue, figure out an herb formula, right? That stuff. That's fun, where there's skills. Yeah. But as an employee, you take a pay cut because you're offloading all the complexity of the other areas onto the business you work for. They're attracting the patients. They're bringing them in with their website. They're doing all the heavy lifting. They've maybe got a reception staff, whatever else. They've got a reputation in town. They've been there a long time, whatever it is. Maybe there's a head doctor you work under who does all the consults. So the conversion, the sales process, all that stuff can be, to an extent, sort of off your plate, right? Which means you don't have an incentive to work on those skills, and you don't have opportunities to do it either. And then you go to private practice and you're totally underdeveloped on all those areas, except for like, man, I can give some great treatments. Like when somebody actually does find me, come in and commit and show up, man, I can really change their life. Well, good. Find your confidence there and let that confidence start to spill and flow into those other areas. When you go to seminars, when you have mentors, right? And I know this happens because it's happened to me as a student of things. It's happened to me on the other side teaching stuff. Is there's a transference of confidence. One of the best things to do is to be around very high-level people and use them for support. Have them teach you things, right? Be in an environment where you can learn and grow and it's real and people actually care about your success. And you can bounce ideas off them and you can borrow some confidence from what you've seen that they do and what's worked. And you try it in your own little laboratory, right? And as that starts to work and grow, it's no more borrowed confidence. Now you've earned it. It's your own confidence. It's your own experience. Right? So that can go for treatments like, oh, when I do this certain E-stim protocol, like it's great for tinnitus or whatever, is it? Well, I'll try it, Same thing for working backwards. Sales, creating an offer, right? Conversion, how to have these conversations. Attraction, how to get new patients, how to help them find you. All those things have techniques and skills that you need to be in the right environment to learn this stuff so that it can rub off on you. And you need to be around people that are already doing it and making it work so that you can see that it does work so you can have the confidence to come in. So a lot of times the cure for imposter syndrome is a bit of boldness. And the way to soften that boldness is to stand on the shoulders of other people around you who are already doing what you want to be doing. It's one of the reasons I created this community. All right, I hope that helps. Get to work.